In February 2013, a video from inside a hotel elevator started spreading online. At first, people shared it because it looked frightening. A young woman steps inside the elevator. She presses several buttons. The doors do not close. She leans out, looks down the hallway, steps back in, then steps out again. At one point, she moves her hands in a way that made thousands of people think someone else might be there. Her name was Elisa Lam. She was 21 years old, from Vancouver, and she had been staying at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles while traveling alone. Elisa was last seen on January 31st, 2013. Her parents expected to hear from her every day, and when the calls stopped, they knew something was wrong. They contacted police, flew to Los Angeles, and the search began. Officers checked the hotel. They used dogs. They went through available camera footage, but the Cecil was not an easy building to search. It was old, large, and known for having both tourist rooms and long-term residents. For almost 2 weeks, no one found her. Then, police released the elevator footage. That video changed everything. People slowed it down, zoomed in, brightened the hallway, and built theories from every movement. Some said she was hiding from someone. Some said the elevator was malfunctioning. Some believed something had been edited out. But the hardest thing about the video is that it does not give an answer. It only shows a young woman, alone in an elevator, behaving strangely, shortly before she vanished. Days later, guests at the hotel began complaining about the water. Some said the pressure was low. Some said the water looked wrong. Others described an unusual taste. On February 19th, a maintenance worker went up to the roof to check the tanks. There were 4 large water tanks up there. Inside one of them, he found Elisa. Her body was in the hotel's water supply tank. That discovery made the case feel impossible. How had she reached the roof? How had she gotten into the tank? Why had no one noticed? The roof was not supposed to be an ordinary guest area. Reports at the time said access was restricted, and there were questions about alarms, doors, and whether someone could have reached the tanks through other routes. Those questions are why the case became bigger than a missing person story. It became a mystery people felt they could solve from behind a screen. But the official investigation did not find evidence of murder. The coroner eventually ruled Elisa Lam's death an accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder listed as a significant contributing condition. That part matters, because for years, people treated the elevator video like a puzzle, or a horror clip, or proof of something hidden. But Elisa was a real person, with a real medical history, traveling alone in a city she did not know. The footage is unsettling, but it is not entertainment for the people who loved her. The Cecil Hotel's reputation only made everything worse. Long before Elisa's case, the hotel was already known for violent deaths, suicides, crime, and its location near Skid Row. That history became part of the story, even when it did not explain what happened. People connected things that may not have belonged together. The hotel, the elevator, the water tank, the strange movements, the missing days. And because the ending was so disturbing, many could not accept that the answer might be tragic rather than criminal. That is what makes the Elisa Lam case so haunting. Not because it proves a conspiracy, not because the hotel was cursed, because the final known images of her leave you with the feeling that something is wrong, while the official answer leaves very little room for certainty. A young woman disappeared inside a hotel full of people. For 19 days, no one found her. Then, the reason guests were complaining about the water became the answer nobody wanted. The footage is still online. People still watch it. They still pause at the same moments, looking for a second person, a shadow, a clue, anything that makes the story easier to understand. But some cases do not become less disturbing when they are explained. Sometimes the explanation is disturbing enough. Jennifer Kesse was supposed to go to work on the morning of January 24th, 2006. She was 24 years old, living in Orlando, Florida, and working in finance. By every account, she was responsible, the kind of person who called when she said she would call, the kind of person whose absence was noticed quickly because it did not fit her. That morning, she did not show up for work. At first, it was the kind of concern people try to explain away. Maybe she overslept. Maybe her phone died. Maybe there was some simple reason. But when coworkers contacted her family, the worry became immediate. Jennifer's parents drove to her condo, and what they found did not look like someone who had simply decided to disappear. Her car was gone. Her purse was gone. Her keys and phone were gone. But inside the condo, there were signs of an ordinary morning interrupted. It looked like she had been getting ready for work. That detail is one of the reasons the case has stayed with people for so long. Jennifer did not vanish during a long trip. She did not disappear after walking into the woods or going out late at night. She vanished from the middle of a routine, a normal weekday morning, a woman leaving home for work. The search began quickly. Family, friends, police, and volunteers started looking around her condo complex and the surrounding area. Flyers went up. News stations covered the disappearance. People searched parking lots, roads, wooded areas, and nearby neighborhoods, but Jennifer was not found. Then, 2 days later, her car was located. It was her black 2004 Chevy Malibu, parked at another apartment complex called Huntington on the Green, roughly a mile from her condo. That discovery changed the case, because if Jennifer had driven there herself, where was she? And if someone else had driven her car there, who was it? The answer seemed like it might be on camera. Surveillance footage from the apartment complex showed someone parking Jennifer's car and walking away. That person became the case's most important figure. The footage is famous now, but not because it is clear, because it is painfully unclear. The person of interest walks past a fence, and at the exact moments when their face might have been visible, the fence posts block it. Frame after frame, the camera catches the body, the clothing, the movement, but not the face. Investigators studied the footage. So did the public. People focused on the walk, the height, the clothing, the timing, anything that might turn a blurry figure into a name. But the person was never publicly identified. That is what makes the video so frustrating. It feels like the answer is right there, walking across the screen. But every time you think you are about to see it, the image fails you. Jennifer's disappearance became one of those cases where the smallest details feel heavy. The missing phone, the missing purse, the car found away from home, the person leaving it behind. The fact that she was expected at work and never made it there. There have been theories over the years. Some focus on the construction work happening around her condo complex at the time. Others focus on the possibility that someone watched her routine. But theories are not the same as proof, and in Jennifer's case, proof has always been the problem. There has never been a confirmed public answer to what happened to her. No body has been found, no one has been convicted. The person in the surveillance video remains unidentified. For her family, that means the case is not just history, it is still open, still active in the only way that matters to people who are waiting for someone to come home. What makes the Jennifer Kesse case so haunting is how ordinary the beginning is. A young professional woman gets ready for work. Her day should have been predictable. She should have driven to the office, answered emails, taken phone calls, made plans, and come home. Instead, her life seems to split into two parts: everything before that morning, and everything after she was gone. The car was found, the video was found, the person was seen, but none of it was enough. That is the part that stays with people. Not because there are no clues, because there are clues. There is a car, there is a timeline, there is footage of someone walking away. And still, after all these years, the central question remains untouched. Who parked Jennifer Kesse's car, and what happened before they walked away? Missy Bevers arrived at Creekside Church of Christ before sunrise. It was April 18th, 2016, in Midlothian, Texas. Missy was a fitness instructor, a wife, and a mother of 3. She taught early morning boot camp classes, the kind where people show up half awake with water bottles, yoga mats, and the hope that someone else will motivate them to move. That morning, the class had been moved indoors because of bad weather. So before most people in the town were awake, Missy drove to the church to set up. What she did not know was that someone was already inside. The church had security cameras, and the footage from that morning is the reason the case became known far outside Texas. The video shows a person walking through the church hallways, wearing what looks like police or tactical gear: helmet, gloves, dark clothing, a vest with police markings. The person moves slowly through the building, opening doors, breaking glass, and carrying what appears to be a hammer or similar tool. But the footage does not give the one thing everyone wants: a face. The gear covers the person from head to toe. Even the walk became part of the mystery. People studied it for years, trying to decide whether the person was a man or a woman, whether they had a limp, whether they were familiar with the building, whether they looked nervous or calm. That is what makes the video so unsettling. The person does not seem rushed. They move through the church like they have time, like they are waiting. Missy was expected to teach her class at 5 a.m. Instead, when students arrived, they found her inside the church. She had been attacked before the class could begin. Police would later say the injuries were consistent with tools the suspect was seen carrying in the surveillance footage. From the beginning, there were questions about motive. Was this a burglary that went wrong? Did Missy interrupt someone who never expected her to be there? Or was she the reason the person came to the church in the first place? That question has never been answered publicly. At first, the idea of a break-in seemed possible. The person on camera can be seen moving through rooms and damaging property. But as the investigation continued, the case did not settle neatly into one explanation. Because if the person came only to steal, why dress like that? Why move through the building in that gear? Why be there at that hour, on the same morning Missy had posted about moving class indoors? Those are the questions that keep this case alive. There was also another piece of surveillance investigators looked at. Around the same general time, a vehicle was seen at a nearby business. Police later released information about a Nissan Altima seen in the area and asked for help identifying the driver. Like so many details in this case, it raised more questions than it answered. Was the car connected? Was it unrelated? Was someone watching the church? Or was it just another vehicle on the road before dawn? Over the years, investigators have received thousands of tips. The footage has been watched again and again. People have focused on the suspect's height, the clothing, the gait, the tools, the timing, and the possibility that someone out there recognizes that walk. Because that may be the most frustrating part of the Missy Bevers case. Someone may know exactly who is in that footage, not from the face, from the way they move. But recognizing someone is not the same as proving it. And in a case this serious, suspicion is not enough. Missy's family has had to live with that reality for years. A video that feels like it should solve everything, and an investigation that still has not led to a public arrest. The footage is disturbing because it shows the person believed to be responsible. It shows the building. It shows the minutes before the crime. It shows almost everything except the answer. Missy Bevers went to that church to teach a workout class, a normal class, an ordinary routine, something she had done many times before. But that morning, the storm moved the class indoors, and inside the building, someone was already walking the halls in tactical gear. That is why the case still bothers people, because it is not just unsolved, it is recorded. The person is right there on camera, moving through the church before sunrise, close enough to see, covered enough to disappear.